Every single one of those actions was invented in the same building, the same group of people, in the same decade. And the company that owned it let the biggest gold mines in tech history slip right through their fingers. The building was called Xerox PARC. In the 1960s, Xerox Corporation was one of the most profitable companies in America. They had invented one thing, the photocopier, and that one thing had made them a billion-dollar empire. But Xerox chief scientist Jack Goldman was not comfortable. He understood something the boardroom did not. Companies built on a single invention don't last. They get disrupted. They get replaced. They disappear. Goldman convinced the CEO to fund something radical, a research lab completely separate from Xerox's core business. No commercial deadlines, no quarterly targets, no pressure to produce a product. Just the smartest people in the world left alone to think. Xerox agreed, and Peck went to California to build something the world had never seen. George Peck, the physicist chosen to run the lab, told Xerox executives directly, "Don't ask us for anything useful for 5 years." The culture he created was unlike anything in corporate America. Researchers debated in beanbag chairs because Alan Kay had noticed it's very hard to aggressively argue a point when you keep sinking back into a beanbag. By the mid-1970s, nearly half of the world's top 100 computer scientists were working at PARC. What came out of PARC in its first decade is almost impossible to summarize without it sounding like fiction. But here's what makes it extraordinary. These were not separate inventions. PARC was not just building tools, it was building a complete model of computing, personal, networked, graphical, and modular. Each invention was one piece of a single system that did not yet have a product. Gary Starkweather had an idea his managers at Xerox mail log called impossible. Replace the light source in a copier with a laser beam. They shut down his project, so Starkweather asked to transfer to PARC, where no one could shut him down. We built a working laser printer in 1971, the Xerox 9700, the first commercial model, shipped in 1977. This would become the one PARC invention Xerox actually commercialized at scale. It generated billions, and it's the reason Starkweather's story is one of the great ironies of PARC. The invention that almost did not happen became Xerox's biggest financial win. The thinking model shift. Alan Kay's team at PARC built Smalltalk, a programming language built around one radical idea. Instead of writing instructions for a machine, you model the world as objects that communicate with each other. This was not just a new syntax, it was a new way of thinking about what software is. Before OOP, programming meant telling a machine exactly what to do, step by step. After OOP, you built systems that behaved like the real world, with independent components that talk to each other. Object-oriented programming became one of the dominant paradigms behind modern application software: C++, Java, Python, Swift, Objective-C, all of them shared by an idea that came out of PARC. The invisible infrastructure. Before Ethernet, computers were islands. Each machine existed alone. Sharing data meant physically carrying it from one room to another room on a tape or disk. In 1973, Bob Metcalfe and David Boggs invented Ethernet, a protocol allowing computers to communicate over a shared local network. You could not see it, you could not touch it, but without it, the rest of PARC's inventions would have been useless. Isolated machines instead of a connected system. Today, every office network, every data center, every router in your home runs on a direct descendant of what two engineers built at PARC. The interaction paradigm collapsed. This is the one that collapsed everything that came before it. In 1973, PARC completed Xerox Alto, the first personal computer with a functional graphical user interface, a bitmap display, a mouse, a windows you could open and close, icons you could click, folders, a desktop. But the GUI did not appear from nowhere. Douglas Engelbart at Stanford Research Institute had demonstrated early interaction research. A mouse, a hypertext, collaborative tools in his legendary 1968 Mother of All Demos. PARC drew on that broader wave of early research and built on it, creating a complete functional desktop model that was categorically different from anything that had existed before. Everything you use to interact with a computer today. The Alto also introduced the first WYSIWYG word processor. What you saw on screen was exactly what would print on paper. The first vector graphics editor. The first networked multiplayer game. It was 1973. The iPhone would not exist for another 34 years. By 1979, PARC had given thousands of demonstrations to outside visitors, researchers, engineers, academics. Almost none of them understood what they were looking at. In December 1979, Steve Jobs came to PARC. The deal Apple would allow Xerox to purchase a coveted block of pre-IPO Apple stock at a discounted price. Assets that would prove enormously valuable after Apple's public offering. In exchange, Jobs got a tour of PARC's most advanced work. PARC engineer Larry Tesler sat down at an Alto and ran the demo. Jobs stepped forward. He started interrupting the demo mid-sentence. He later described it. I was so blinded by the first thing they showed me that I did not even really see the other two. I thought it was the best thing I had ever seen in my life. With his background in design and typography, Jobs understood immediately what Xerox had failed to grasp. This was not a research project. This was the future of every computer ever made. To be fair, Xerox did not ignore what they had. They tried to productize it, but they did it as a Copier company would. The result was the Xerox Star. Launched in 1981 with everything PARC had built: GUI, mouse, Ethernet, laser printer support. At $16,000 per machine, Jobs went back to Apple and infamously hijacked the company's own projects to force them into the graphical age. First, he pushed his vision into the expensive Apple Lisa. Then, after being kicked off the Lisa team by Apple's own management, he took over a smaller, rogue internal project called Macintosh, originally started by engineer Jeff Ruskin, and drove it to become what the world remembers. The Xerox Star was technologically complete but commercially mispositioned. The Macintosh was neither the first nor the most powerful, but it was priced, packaged, and pushed by someone who understood that the best technology does not win, the best story does. The question everyone asks is obvious. If Xerox invented all of this, why don't we use Xerox computers? The answer is not one bad decision. It was 4 separate failures, each one rational on its own. Together, they formed a system that could not recognize what it had built. PARC was located on the opposite side of the country from Xerox headquarters in Rochester, New York. That distance was not just geographic. The executives in Rochester were Copier salespeople, but the researchers in Palo Alto were computer scientists. They did not speak the same language. They did not share the same vision. The people making decisions about what to build were 2,800 miles away from the people doing the invention. Xerox was making enormous profits from copiers. That profit created what economists call the innovator's dilemma. When your existing business is working, it becomes psychologically impossible to cannibalize it with something new. Xerox executives famously said, and this is documented, the computer will never be as important to society as the copier. They were protecting a billion-dollar business. They could not see what PARC had actually created. When Xerox did finally commercialize the Alto's technology, the Xerox Star in 1981, they priced it for the enterprise buyers only $16,000 per machine, $100,000 for a full office setup. The technology was real, the vision was real, the price was not. PARC had no mechanism to take an invention and turn it into a product. The lab was designed to produce ideas, not to ship them. No product team, no manufacturing pipeline, no marketing connection. Invention happened at PARC. Commercialization was supposed to happen at Xerox, and Xerox did not know how to commercialize something it did not understand. But here's what the failure narrative misses. PARC's inventions did not disappear. They escaped. Through demonstrations, through published papers, through researchers who left and built entire industries, and they reshaped the world. What PARC created was not just products, it created standards, and once those standards exist, innovation stopped being invention and became iteration. Every company that came after Apple, Microsoft, Google, Meta was iterating on a foundation that PARC had already built. The GUI became the Macintosh, then Windows, then every operation system on Earth. Ethernet became the backbone of local area networks, then the Internet's physical infrastructure. Smalltalk's thinking model became the backbone of the software development for the next 50 years. Then, laser printer became a $50 billion global industry. Robert Metcalfe left PARC and founded 3Com, turning Ethernet into a global standard. Gary Starkweather's laser printer is in every office on Earth. Alan Kay's ideas are taught in every computer science program in the world. PARC was not just a lab, it was the origin point of the digital world. Alan Kay once said, "The best way to predict the future is to invent it." PARC invented it. They just could not say it, but the future arrived anyway. Here is what this story actually is. Xerox gave a group of smartest people alive total freedom, unlimited resource, and zero pressure. And those people built the future, the literal, actual future of how every human being on Earth would interact with computers. And then a corporation failed to do anything with it. Not because the inventions were not good enough, not because the market was not ready, but because invention and commercialization are two completely different skills, and Xerox was only ever built for one of them. Most of PARC's key researchers eventually left, not because they were pushed out, but because Xerox had nothing left to offer people who had already built the future once. The researchers at PARC did not fail, they succeeded completely at the wrong company. Every time you move a mouse, open a window, or print a document, you are using something a small group of scientists built in a quiet building in Palo Alto over 50 years ago. Xerox just never figured out how to charge you for it.